And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. We got a trade frenzy to analyze and go through with our What's Your Grade segment. But we have a new segment called Trending Truth. The Los Angeles Chargers hire Michigan Wolverines defensive coordinator Jesse Minter as defensive coordinator and defensive line coach Mike Elston as defensive line coach. Ed, those, at least I bet, were expected to, right?
I expected Jesse Minter. To be honest, I really wasn't quite expecting um, Elston to leave as well, but it kind of does make sense when you think about it. Harbaugh wants to replicate as much of the success he knows very well, of the formula he knows very well. So elements of that, what you saw at Michigan, you're going to see that being brought over to his new job with the Chargers. And frankly, you're also going to see, I think, elements of what he had brought to the table when he was with the 49ers as well. So a lot of the turnover usually really is expected when you're seeing coaching staffs change. It's rarely do you see the entire staff really stick together the way um, you would want it to be.
I see. Gotcha. Well, but even more than just Jesse Minter is heading to the
Way
Chargers
more.
from the school. Yeah, way more. Yeah. So we gotta. I guess we're gonna have to keep our eyes open for stuff like this, aren't we?
I can go through. I can go through some of these names because these are very, I think, important names and positions to be looking at, paying attention here when you think about it. First and foremost, let's start with Ben Herbert, the strength and conditioning coach. I think that is a real important department to look at because I believe after among the top reasons why Michigan was able to turn into such a juggernaut the past 3 years was their conditioning, was their endurance, was their ability to have enough in the tank to withstand playing such a physical game because that's what their style is. It is very physical. It's meant to be physical, but it's not just obviously takes a lot out of the opponent, but also takes a lot, you know, exerts a lot from the players themselves to deliver that type of output and energy. So if you're trying to deliver that type of pace or play at that type of pace week in and week out, year in and year out, you need top caliber, high quality strength and conditioning, and that's what they got from Ben Herbert. That was one reason why you saw them be able to break Ohio State in the fourth quarter the way they did the past 3 years. That's why you saw them being able to find a way to make that comeback against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. That's how you saw them being find a way to just break down Washington in that second half the way they did, to where once Mike Samuel got that interception, there was no doubt he was winning this game. Um, I think we mentioned Mike Elston. I think it's worth noting that under his watch, we saw that that defensive line in Michigan produce some absolute stalwarts, guys like Aiden Hutchinson, guys like Chris Jenkins, and what we're seeing now currently um, with excuse me, Mason Graham and with Kenneth Grant, both those dudes coming back. It's a testament to really to the work that Mike Elston was doing. Should be worth noting that even though more of the coaches that were on the Harbaugh staff last year are leaving for the NFL, they're not necessarily going to the Chargers. For example, this name was expected, this name actually comes off as a surprise. But Jay Harbaugh, Jim's son, of course, who did work with special teams, he will not be going to LA. Instead, he will be going to Seattle. He will be uh, joining the staff on the Seahawks with their new head coach, Mike Macdonald. So it's like still a familiar situation for Jay Harbaugh as he's leaving Michigan to go to the Seahawks. And also worth noting, Doug Mallory, defensive backs coach, which I think is another key crucial department to look at. He will be taking a job with the Baltimore Ravens. So again, you see the connections, you see the ties, you see where everything all ties together. It's no surprise when you consider the fact that when Harbaugh decided to make this turnaround for the 2021 season, he asked John, he went to his brother and said, "Hey, I got, what coaches that you got for me that I can use for my defense?" And John Harbaugh mentioned Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter. He got Mike McDonald first. You saw what he did in 21. Then Mike McDonald went back to the Ravens and say, okay, let me take Jesse Minter. And then you saw the work that Jesse Minter did the past 2 seasons, and now he's earned himself a spot to where, yeah, now you're going to be the head, again, the lead defensive coordinator for the Chargers. So you wonder how can Michigan replace that? We'll see what they can do. I do have some names, some information that what we have known so far on Sharon Moore's staff. I do know, for example, that Kirk Campbell, who was the quarterback's coach, he has been promoted internally. He is now, in addition to remaining
offensive coordinator,
he is now officially the offensive coordinator. That is correct. Frankly, it's like a kind of an expected promotion when you consider the fact that he's had experience of his resume going back to working 2 years under Old Dominion. He was 3 years as an analyst at Penn State. Like I said before, he came to Michigan, became the quarterback's coach, and in fact was one of the interim coaches last year for the first 3 games of Harbaugh's of the year with the Harbaugh suspension. I believe Campbell was the interim coach for the first one, which was against Eastern Michigan. So there's that. Grant Newsome is now officially the offensive line coach, which I think this is the smart thing to do because you relegate all less stress, less pressure off of what Sharon Moore was what has to do on his plate. Because let's not forget, when he had his duties in those 4 games where he was the head coach, especially those last 3 against Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, he had to handle that while also being both the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach. So even though, of course, Sharon Moore is going to be very much involved in the offense, he can have less worry about, dictating which staff, which department, or what to do with the offense. And just promote up with Kirk Campbell and Grant Newsome. That's all you got to do. And speaking of more in-house promotions, Justin Tress, he will be the replacement for Ben Herbert at the strength and conditioning spot. And basically his assistant in that sense, in terms of being director in charge of football performance nutrition, will be Abigail Connor. Now, there is one name I think we all have to pay attention to, and if you notice, it's one name I've not called yet. Can you guess what it is, Taylor?
I give up.
Well, Mike Hart. There has been no
yes.
official confirmation yet on whether or not Mike Hart is coming back. I've seen conflicting information. I've seen some reports or posts on Twitter that say Mike Hart has been retained. I've seen some reports that says Mike Hart has not. There's been no word yet on the contract status of Mike Hart, and I've seen some that were speculating that Mike Hart may have been upset about potentially being passed over for the offensive coordinator spot. So again, all this conflicting information, all these rumors, but nothing concrete. We don't know for sure what is going on with Mike Hart at the moment. All we can tell you is that as I last checked, he is still the running backs coach for Michigan until we know anything differently, or until we know to the extent of if they're bringing him back, B, in what capacity, and C, for how long, if we can get that far in detail. So still have things to work out. You still got to figure out, a new special teams coach, new defensive coordinator, new D-backs coach, and now new D-line coach. So Sharon Moore has definitely got his work cut out for him. But again, this is the challenge that is to be expected when you are now the head man in charge. You're taking over for a legend in more ways than one in Jim Harbaugh. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you're coming off of a 15-0 national championship season. And you're the 3-time defending now Big Ten champion. So, yeah, expect to have that type of pressure being bestowed upon you, even though this will be your upcoming first full season as a head coach.
Oh, yeah. Next men up, period.
Yeah.
But here's Yeah, you were going to say something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was there any other football information that I was aware of? Oh, yeah. I do know this. I saw some news earlier today that might be a potential indicator of where I see things going in regards to the NCAA investigation and how it will play out with Michigan, or investigations, I should say, because Warde Manuel was named as the head of the college football playoff committee.
Right on the money. I just you beat me to it, but I had the banner ready anyway.
Oh yeah, perfect. So so think about that, right? Warde, because think about this. The Big Ten, if you notice, when Harbaugh accepted his suspension, that meant what? The Big Ten, pay attention to the wording, they were ending their side of the investigations. Now we still had to figure out what was the NCAA going to do. What will they be doing once the season ended, once we get into the spring, potentially summer, whatever. Well, guess what? The supposed players that were the target of the storm, they're gone. Connor Stallions, gone. His people, his staff that bought those tickets or went to those games, they're gone. Jim Harbaugh, gone. And they got a new head coach in place. And there's all this turnover with the staff and everything else. And oh, by the way, now all of a sudden the athletic director gets named the head chair of the CFP committee. How about that? So if that's not a hint, in my opinion, that should be a hint, if not an outright prediction or a spoiler, as Paul Heyman would say, as to what the results we're going to see once the full report or the final decision comes out on the investigations regarding Michigan, and whether it be the Burgergate fiasco or the Signgate fiasco. We're going to see, in my opinion, that was just the first hint of how we're going to see things play out as to what some sort of quote-unquote punishment that Michigan will receive. And frankly, I posted my thoughts on Twitter with a gift.
They better not strip Michigan of that national championship.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Of course, it's not even going to reach that far. The fact that the NCAA president came out and said that they won that national championship fair and square should be another hint as to what's going to happen. Like I said, I posted my thought on this on Twitter, and I accompanied it with a GIF of Cam Newton. It was Cam Newton in the ESPN 30 for 30 that they did on the Alabama-Auburn rivalry, right? And it was a part that they specifically dedicated a section of that doc to Cam Newton's his own pay-for-play scandal that was going on during his season at Auburn. And right when it cut to Cam, he gave this condescending but yet on-the-nose answer of, like they say, it's an ongoing investigation. And he answered it with such a shit-eating, cocky grin of a smile on his face to where you knew that he knew that Auburn was not going to have anything be done to them. And that's the gift that I posted when I posted my reaction on Warde Manuel being named the head of the CFP committee, because that's the first hint that, you know what, as they say with Michigan, it's an ongoing investigation until it's not an ongoing investigation. I'll just say that.
Yep. It's still developing too. We'll stay on top of that. But yeah, I got that notification on my phone, and you were on top of it too. We were both on top of it.
Appreciate it.
Yep, of course. So that's trending truth. Now for that trade frenzy for the Pistons, we're gonna grade it all on the What's Your Grade segment. The Pistons, first off, they traded small forward Kevin Knox to the Utah Jazz for forward Simone Fontecchio. Ed, what's your grade?
Let's see. My grade for this one, I will lean towards high C plus. I think for what you're getting in Fontecchio, you're getting a good 3-point shooter. He shot 39% from three this year. He's done that on an average of 5 shots a game. So this is a guy that he's going to take them. He's going to take them more often, and more often than not, he's going to make them. He's also shown himself to be a good defender. And depending on what he shows you on his tenure here, on his time here with the team, you got a little bit of a limited time to know, but you'll be able to know for as much as you can, because he's on an expiring deal, which will be the theme that you're going to be seeing with these players that they received in these transactions on these deals.
Yeah, I've been reading those grades on an article on ESPN Plus, but we're going to stick with our grades, of course. And then the Pistons trade for guard Daniel House Jr. at a 2024 second round draft pick. from the Philadelphia 76ers who free up cap space. Ed, what's your grade?
I think they would soon waive him as a result. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll just give this a C, maybe C minus, just for depth purposes and to gain some draft capital and also potential cap space.
Yeah, they would later waive him, Killian Hayes of all people, guard Joe Harris, and forward Delino Gallinari. First off,
Yeah.
Killian Hayes is finally long gone.
Oh my goodness. I was absolutely rejoicing when I heard the news. I was in the car taking care of some errands and, just happened to be listening to 97.1. Thankfully, I had it on Carson Anderson, and they were, of course, discussing their reactions to what was going down live as it was happening with the Pistons making these moves. Because it was happening while they're on the air, so they had to react. And with about 15, 20 minutes left in their show, this was when I had first heard the news. I guess they had found out in real time because Shams had put out the tweet that Killian Hayes was waived. And I was like, what? They did it? Oh my goodness. So frankly, just for that alone, I'm giving that an A because I have despised, loathed Killian Hayes on this team for so long, and I'm so glad he is finally gone. Finally, as the Rock.
He was just fucking terrible.
He was garbage. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. For every one or two good games, for every one or two good games he will pop off, he will follow up with five straight stinkers. Okay, and
it won't mean shit.
And this was the guy that Monty Williams was using to take away minutes from Jaden Ivey. That's criminal. That's criminal.
What the hell is Monty Williams thinking?
So he ain't thinking. He's just thinking about his money. That's what he's thinking about.
Oh, God.
Please.
Greed.
Exactly.
Greed.
It's just nothing but please. Anyway, I'll get to that can of worms another day. But right now, we're talking about these deals. So just for the fact that they waived Killian alone, I'm giving that an A. The fact that he's finally gone.
Exactly. I would grade that an A+.
Good God. Right. Thank God Almighty. He is finally gone. So, yeah, easy A for me.
George Carlin, get the fuck out of here. All right, let's continue. The Pistons also trade guard Monty Morris to the Minnesota Timberwolves for guard Shake Milton, forward Troy Brown, and a 2030 second-round pick. Ed, what's your grade?
C minus, but even but potential upgrade or potential room for ceiling improvement. I see this as a move done for rotational purposes, trying to get more better defensively with your wings position, with your forwards, and also securing more draft capital as we're seeing as a theme throughout all these deals. Draft capital and cap space. That's what Troy Weaver has been doing, is what he had alluded to before, months ago or weeks ago, wherever it was, about the plans on how to make improvements for this team. But first and foremost, you gotta do a lot of roster turnover. And frankly, so far, whether you want to say it's taking over leftovers from the Stan Van Gundy era, or you want to say it's Weaver, for the most part, just not being able to hit on draft picks, aside from the ones that you and I can make in our sleep, like getting guys like Cade, getting guys like Ivy, getting guys even like a Sore Thompson. But guess what? Troy Weaver was also the guy that picked Killian Hayes over Tyrese Halliburton. Just saying. So I'm glad.
Looks like he fixed his mistake.
Thank goodness.
His own mistake.
But, he hasn't been able to hit much with these other picks. Unfortunately, Isaiah Livers, nope, that didn't go so well. You'll see, you can hopefully, I do like what we're seeing out of Marcus Sasser. I think he's a guy that could potentially, as long as he keeps playing, he could potentially be moving into one of those untouchable status guys, especially when you consider how well he was playing while Cade was hurt. And by the way, I'll get to a little brief deterrent. I'll deter briefly from my main point about now this narrative that people want to bring up about, you see how the Pistons are playing better without Cade Cunningham? Stop it. Stop that bullshit right then and there. Without Cade Cunningham, this team would be absolutely useless and pathetic. It is not Cade Cunningham's fault that this team now apparently wants to figure out a way to be more effective with playing games. Guess what? Even without him or with him or without him, it doesn't matter. They've barely been able to get over 5 wins this season. They're just a bad
7-43.
They're a badly constructed team and they're a badly coached team. And no matter what type of talent you have, when those two elements are at play, you're gonna have a bad time. So, this narrative now all of a sudden, the Pistons play better without Cade. Stop it. Okay, well, so it was Cade that was, making. I understand he has his turnovers, but he's not the only one committing turnovers. He's not
The
the
whole
only
team
one.
has been committing turnovers.
Right.
It's a whole team, not just one player.
He's not the only one that's not maintaining these leads in the second half, late in the fourth quarter, and he's not the guy that's playing Killian Hayes minutes that should have gone to Jaden Ivey or Marcus Sasser. Just saying.
Truth. Hey, sometimes Troy Weaver can draft, other times he can't. He drafted Cade Cunningham, but he also drafted Killian Hayes and Isaiah Livers.
Yeah,
Luka Garza, he didn't do too well either.
No, unfortunately, no. But you got to look at what you have available at your dispense.
He did draft Jaden Ivey and Jalen
Duran, yep, and Asar Thompson too. And Asar Thompson, you can't forget that.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, unfortunately, with the possible lone exception of Cade and to an extent Ivy, they're not that well with shooting, especially with Asar Thompson and Duran. He's essentially, I would say your prototypical project big man, as in he's most effective at with inside, but he's trying to work on expanding his range. I get that part, but you still need more shooters on your team. And with these moves that they have done throughout the year, because this is not just moves that they made. These weren't the only moves that they made all year. They've been making moves throughout the course of the season leading up to today. So it was centered around, hey, how can we get better pieces around Cade and to an extent Ivy? And how can we get that, get rid of some players that we know that we're going to lose at free agency at the end of the season anyway, like Bogdanovich or Alec Burks or whatever the case may be, and get as much draft capital as we can because, what are these teams going to do? What's the best deal that we can get from these teams? Because, outside of not trading one of our 4 core players, it's going to be very difficult to get the best deal that you want. So I can't really rip Troy Weaver too much. It's easy to make fun of him for the job he's done so far. But for today, I think he did as decent job as he could have possibly done, knowing where the team is at and knowing where this roster currently is at.
Yeah, well, we got one more trade to grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's them trading center Bojan Bogdanovich and guard Alec Burks to the New York Knicks for guards Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn,
and Ryan. Is not a forward. Bogdanovich is a forward, not a center.
Oh, yeah. Malachi Flynn is a forward, and then guard Ryan Arcidiacono and 2 second-round draft picks. Ed, what's your grade?
This one I'll give C-, probably potential D. I'll be honest with you because this one was frankly not. I was not too much impressed with this. I think this is the best deal you could have got for Bogdanovich. Burks is one thing, but not even getting back or at least trying to get back that first rounder that you traded to the Knicks. I think could have come in real helpful when you're giving up Bogdanovich, a forward wing who can give you good 3-point shooting and is a veteran, could come in handy for a playoff run. And that's what the Knicks are going for. And at least for this deal, I think the Pistons could have got something just a little bit more, a little bit better on their return. But that's my feeling on that specific deal.
The Pistons over a year ago, according to exclusive sources to us, were trying to shop Bojan Bogdanovich. They just couldn't until now. But they were sellers, 7-43. But I don't.
Who are you going to find? All right. Who are you going to find that's going to be willing to trade with a 7-win team? Think about that.
Hmm. Oh, goodness.
Right, exactly. They know how much of a punchline the Pistons have become. So, do you really see players actively wanting to join that mess right now? No.
Hmm.
So, whatever deal we could have pulled off was going to be a surprise in my book.
Right. So that's Pistons. Now for the Tigers edition of What's Your Grade. The Tigers claim left-handed pitcher Kolten Ingram off waivers from the Los Angeles Angels, designated infielder Nick Maton for assignment, and outrated right-handed pitcher Devin Sweet to the AAA Toledo Mudhens after he cleared waivers. In addition to that, the Tigers have traded Nick Maton to the Baltimore Orioles for cash considerations. So in totality, Ed, what is your grade on all that?
In totality of all that, I think it's just a middle of the road C. It's not a matter of, what are you're adding a reliever arm in one of the moves. You're DFAing a guy, and you're sending another to Toledo. So it doesn't scream, impact that can help the main team right now. So maybe we'll get something better long term, but in terms of short term, what you're seeing we're trying to do for this season, yeah, I don't see much of that. But so that's why I'm just gonna give it a middle of the road C.
I'm going to give this a C plus, just to be fair. You got rid of Nick Maton. He was a dud. Factor that in for a bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Nick Maton made like it made like almost 10 errors, and he was hitting way lower than we expected. Man, oh man, he stunk.
Somehow even worse than Javi Baez. How about that?
Yeah, Javier Baez still committed way more errors than Maton did, but still, Maton hit even lower numbers than Baez offensively. At least Baez has been working again on his throws to first. He's been throwing straighter. Baez just needs to start cutting back, stop swinging at sliders low and outside, and just learn more mental discipline at the plate.
I doubt he's able to reclaim that at this point, at this stage of his career. That's what worries me.
Yeah, and he's only into his third year of a 6-year, $140 million contract.
Ugh.
But he's out of his no movement clause, so
wonderful.
Yep, according to Spot Track. And then you got the Red Wings. Just 2 days before they return to the ice at 1 at Little Caesars Arena against the Vancouver Canucks, Alex DeBrincat got 3 goals and got the shootout winner. He got the shootout winner in the NHL All-Star game. He's a star.
He's an absolute stud, and like I said, he's proven to be one of the top tier best signings that we could have seen from this past off season. So I'm sure some pundits and analysts listed it that high anyway, but it's nice to see it actually being proven and validated.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is everything. Now, what did we learn from all this?
Well, I would say that we learned that the Pistons, they are still in limbo, but I would still say they're in a slightly better spot than where they were even just a few short weeks ago, because they have a clear directive in mind of what they want to go with their roster moving forward, and that is they have a core that they want to build around. It's Cade, it's Ivy, it's Duran, it's Thompson. I would argue Sasser to an extent. But that's who they're building around. That's what they're focusing on. And when you factor in that, well, all this cap space, they're going to use it to probably one by one re-sign these guys to some deals, to some rookie extensions, Cade's most notably, but while also trying to acquire better veteran talent that fits the system that they're trying to implement around Cade or Ivy or whomever. So I would still say the Pistons have that type of long-term goal in mind, but they have got to get much better figuring out a make enough proper deals to where these draft picks mean something. And you know what? B, I know you can't trade all your draft picks, so guess what? You're gonna have to make a hit on these by picking the right players at the right spots. So Troy Weaver has yet to really prove that, in my view, in my opinion. As a result, and I think it's evident, as you can see, with the turnover they've done. Um, so that's what we're looking for. I think that's the Pistons are going to try to look to prove and find with themselves who fits the right makeup of what they want to be moving forward here. Um, we learned that Alex DeBrincat is what was well deserving of his All-Star spot. And he's going to be a very key, I would dare say, the second most important key outside of Dylan Larkin as to why the Red Wings would potentially be making the playoffs this season. And what we also learned for tonight is that the Tigers, again, they're just slowly they're making means to an end. But if AJ Hinch has the confidence that this roster, the way that they're making moves now, is enough to give them a better shot at competing against the division, then so be it. We learned that Jim Harbaugh, with the way that he's getting his staff in order with the Chargers, is very serious about wanting to make a run at the Super Bowl. We'll see how long it takes him. We'll see if he even gets to that point. But I gotta believe the fact that he wants to get that Super Bowl was one key factor rather, in him making his decision and leaving Michigan. And that's for those who stay and will stay with Coach Sharon Moore. I think this is a grand opportunity for them to prove their worth, prove that this is a system that can be carried on in the right spot, or carried on by the right coaches, if done well, if nurtured well, if everything was put in place well. So Sharon Moore does have a lot on his plate, but he seems to have the trust and the faith and the backing of so many in the right spots, in the right places, and in the right departments, whether it be at the athletic director. I know Warde Manuel's not popular, but I guarantee you he has Sharon Moore's back 100%. I would definitely agree with that about the president of the school, Santa Ono, and many other constituents as well. So that's the confidence I would say in terms of Michigan and their coaching turnover. And yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, one more thing. I have to bring this up. The Michigan men's basketball team. Kudos to them.
They upset Wisconsin.
They upset the number 11 ranked team in the nation, Wisconsin. They snapped their 5-game losing streak. Yes, they're still one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, but they were able to get a win done for once, thankfully.
72-68 was the final.
They did that by avoiding another second half collapse, which has become their identity at this point for this season. They did it well by defending the three. I think Wisconsin was 5 for 13, 5 for 14, some of that effect. She missed. They missed more than half their shots from the 3-point line, and also clutch free throws, making your free throws. Michigan had gotten more. I think they were Wisconsin was made of 13 or so. Michigan was 19 and 25. So it always pays to hit your free throws, especially late in the game, as we saw with McDaniel getting fouled, and it led to him hitting the 3 free throws that wound up actually being the difference in the game itself. So if they keep telling you practice your free throws in the gym, they're doing that for a reason. And the fact that this was all done on Juwan Howard's birthday, hey, good on you, Coach. Happy birthday.
Oh, wow. Oh, what a treat, huh? Wins still have to be earned, but hey, that was well-deserved on his birthday. So those are all what we learned on this week's episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on X and Instagram at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on X, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Business shout-outs go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, the B4 Foundation, Burke's Waterfront Restaurant in Cadillac. Cali tickets, call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit calitickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac. Creative Embroidery designed my Michigan Sports Truth podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. I got this fine haircut over there just 5 miles away. The JC Youth Foundation for hosting the Detroit Lions Legends Youth Football Camp every summer in July. I went there last year as a public address announcer at the Brookwood Athletic Complex at Clare Public Schools, the football Clare Pioneers High School. Let's roll with it, rolled ice cream. The flavor of the week is the Snickerdoodle, like in the Snickerdoodle cookie with whipped cream and white chocolate drizzle. Follow them on TikTok at The Food Mafia LLC and on Instagram at The Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac, 231-884-8195, and on Facebook. Union Barber in Birmingham, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, United Mobile Power Wash and Dry Ice Works in Southfield, and Well-Being with Catherine Palms, with yoga and face yoga and meditation in Traverse City. We'll be back next week, Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Until then, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. Remember, we observe and detect the truth about Michigan sports, and the truth is out there. Ta-ta for now. Hit them with a hind.
Take care. Stay safe, everybody.